Hello, everybody. It's not very often a faithful Catholic would ever actually want to interview a demon, but there are exceptions, and this is one of them. Joining us now is Sean Patrick Flanery, who plays Nefarious, the demon, in the just incredible movie Nefarious. Sean, thank you very much for joining us. This is it's an honor. Just so the audience knows, I called you last night, a couple minutes before the movie, a third time I've seen it, and said, I just say, man, you deserve an Oscar for your performance. Every single faithful believer has got to go see you in this, man. Heads up.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much, and the honor's mine. It's mine.
It's tremendous. I want to ask you, when people are, when actors are involved in roles, sometimes it's just a job and they're just doing their thing and they're, doing whatever it is they do. And then when the movie is over, they move on to the next whatever. But sometimes you hear these stories from various actors who are so impacted by the role that they played that it has some kind of life-changing or life perspective, changing effect on them. Was that the case here? Because, I mean, you are portraying a demon's demon, the antipathy, the hatred that you demonstrate for humanity, that your character demonstrates for humanity is so frightening. It's so mesmerizing that I'm thinking to myself afterwards, how could he possibly portray that role and not be somehow impacted by it? Were you?
In a word, no, not at all. I hate to pull the curtain back and display that there's not actually a wizard back there, but and hats off to the other people that have a different process, if you will. But I don't pour my soul into anything but my family and my faith. That's all I pour my soul into. Don't get me wrong. I care about my craft. I care about doing the best job I can, even if for films that nobody's ever seen, for films that I know probably won't get seen. I love the art of acting, but I don't become anybody. I don't channel anybody. The entire thing, it's acting. I'm pretending. That character never lived. That character was only in make-believe and between action and cut.
Right.
And I'd love to tell you some big story about how I sacrificed something great, but it's just not true. I was on my cell phone talking to my family in between takes. My boys had a wrestling tournament, so I was when they said cut, I was FaceTiming and showing the cast and the crew, my boys, getting pins, getting their hands raised, and then, whoa, action. All right, let me call you back. Put it down, and I'd go and do a scene, and that's just the way that I do it. I don't understand people that have traumatic experiences or carry a character with them. That's completely foreign to me, as is trying to fly.
Well, then I've got to say even more hats off to you, because you look like, again, we're looking at it on a screen. I get that, a big screen, it's a movie and it's acting and everything, but you're so utterly convincing in the role of Nefarious. So when the guys brought you the script, you got the script or something, when you looked at it and read over the script the first time, what was your impression? You're thinking, oh, this seems fun. I got to play a demon, or wow, this is a real challenge, or what went through? What was your first reaction to it?
My first reaction was that actors like me don't get scripts like this. These scripts, things that are so perfectly structured in the writing, they go to A-list celebrities. And I'm not denigrating myself, but I've always been a blue collar actor. I have to act and work to feed my family. Mm-hmm. The first time that I read it, I thought I would love to play this character. These roles are why you move out to Los Angeles. You pack up your car and you move out there and you find a roommate on Craigslist because of hopes, even in a 40, 50-year career, maybe you'll get the opportunity one time. And luckily for myself, I got it a couple of times. I had an opportunity to do a film early in my career, which I thought the same thing about, called Powder. And then I got an opportunity to do this one. So it's the second time around. When I read that script, I was horrified for Nefarious. I had empathy for Edward.
Yeah.
And when I read books, I get emotionally affected by reading books. I kind of lose myself in the story. And if you believe what you're reading enough, your body reacts accordingly. You can't, your body understands what your brain is thinking, you know, whether there's pain or not. If your brain thinks there's pain, you're going to feel it. And that's really how the acting goes as well. I loved the message. I loved the delivery system for the message. And I'll tell you, the majority of faith-based films, without pulling any punches, I think are absolute garbage.
Yeah.
I think their execution
I think that's kind of universal, regardless of where you are or not on the theological spectrum. I think that's pretty universal assessment.
And you know, people say, you know, you can't judge a book by its cover, but you know, the publishers that are paid millions of dollars, they spend a lot of time on the covers. And the wrapping paper for the message is the quality of the film. You know, the acting, the production value, the sound score. And this is one that I knew Chuck and Carrie. I knew that they were amazing writers and directors. I'd done a film with them back in 2004. And I told them at the culmination of that film, I said, guys, I would do a Fruit Loops commercial with you. And a year and a half ago from today, they called and they said, Flanery, we have a Fruit Loops commercial for you. And I said, put me in, coach. And then they sent me the script, and that's it. I don't really read scripts that move me like this one moved me. Yeah. And on all fronts. Creatively, I wanted to do it, but also it's a message that I wholeheartedly support.
Yeah. I want to go into that a little bit more with you, specifically the message, and you know, focusing on that the hatred that hell, Satan, Master, you know, Nefarious, all the you know, the underworld has for humanity. I have to tell you, when I was, you know, I've seen it 3 times now, talked to the audiences, various members of audiences afterwards, and they all have the same kind of guttural response, the various people I talked to, and it was just sort of riveting. They don't think really of the devil and hell and all this sort of stuff and the spiritual war and hell's desire to destroy humanity, and that just oozes out of your performance in the movie.
Well, you know, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I really think that whatever side you're on, it's hard to not acknowledge that a lot of these things are happening in the world. Yeah. And if you look at them long enough, I think you have to say, you know, under just a milligram of scrutiny, that can't really be good. At your core, you have to say that. And I think it really forces a lot of people to course correct, whether they like it or not. I mean, I've had people that are seemingly or claiming to be atheistic, but they're probably more dogmatic about their atheism than they are. You know, it's. And they've reached out to me and made statements that I'm thinking, wow, that's completely unlike you. You've really thought about some things. And you know, look, I mean, Albert Schweitzer had one of my favorite quotes. He said, you know, that good is that which promotes life. Evil is that which destroys life. And it really rang true to me. And this film, I think, strikes outside of scripture or anything else. It just strikes at every human's natural instinct of the difference between good and bad. And people see it and they go, wow, I can't really deny that.
I tweeted out a lot of tweets about people, you got to go see this, you got to go see this. One lady sent me a tweet back and said, you know, I was watching it with my son or daughter, whatever, family members, younger people. I got the impression in their 20s, and they said they both bolted to confession the instant the movie was over. I'm like, well, that would be the appropriate response, I think, certainly for Catholics. I want to play a clip for the audience, and I want to get your response to it. It's kind of a sum-up clip where you're really, where Nefarious is talking to the atheist psychiatrist, and really kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of just how cunning hell is when it comes to the treating of humans. So let's watch the clip. We'll come back, get your thoughts on it.
Bottom line is you're done. It's over, that's it. And we did it all right to your face, James. And now there's evil everywhere. And no one even cares.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Proving that we achieved our goal. Slowly, with your movies, your TV, and your media. We desensitized you. Redirected your worldview to the point that you can't even recognize evil when it's right in front of your face. More to the point, James, you can't even feel it when you're doing it. And as for winners and losers, whoa. That gets decided at the time of death. The exact numbers are a closely guarded secret, but there are more of you ending up in my master's house than with the enemy. A lot more, Jimmy.
That, if I can say something, that's scary as hell.
Well, it is a fairly scary acknowledgement for me as well, but it's true. You know, evil does come in increments. They're so tiny that you don't even notice the change. But through generations, you know, things that my grandfather thought were absolutely appalling are commonplace today. And that happens every generation. Every generation is disgusted of the next. And, you know, they want to go back to a previous time. Well, the slippery slope is very, very, very real. There are things that 10 years ago would be unheard of.
Yeah.
But you know, you have to ask yourself this. There's really only one side that acknowledges that. Like, there is one side that has to say all of my ancestors were absolutely wrong about everything. Right. And there's one side that says all of my ancestors were probably right. And once you think about that and you go, wow, you know what? I mean, you have politicians all the time. You know, look back up something that they said 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Even they, by their own acknowledgement, thought that will never happen. That's evil. That's wrong. Cut to now, some of them are going, oh, well, of course. It's tiny millimeters, unnoticeable millimeters, and it creeps in while you're not watching. Then you turn around and you go, whoa, how'd that monster get there? Right. Oh, one molecule at a time, brother. You were just asleep at the wheel.
There were a couple of, well, there were many sort of one-liner responses coming out of Nefarious's mouth there about, you know, I know more theology than any human being who's ever lived. I'm the most rational being you'll ever meet. And, you know, again, your presentation of those was just chilling. It just the sort of the demonic confidence. And when you had that one little exchange, or when Nefarious has that one exchange with the psychiatrist, and he says, yeah, you guys, meaning humanity, you are inferior by design. You know, it's just, there's so many thought bombs going off in the average person's head at the same time. It's an awful lot to ingest. It really is. But I do have to say there was this one scene, and you know, just to set it real quickly, and I want to get your thoughts on the reality behind it. There's one scene where the psychiatrist is, his girlfriend is having an abortion at the moment that Nefarious and the psychiatrist, James, are in the room together. And at the moment the abortion is happening, Nefarious stands up and puts his arms out and says, you know, it's beginning. Can you feel it, James? You know, he's on the altar of sacrifice. And you do this ghoulish countdown, you know, 5, 4, 3, 8, and all hell rejoices. That has got to be some intense response going on with you as an actor. It's just so frightening. It's riveting.
Well, you know, the way I run that in my head is, you know, I always imagine evil to be the inverse of good, the mirror image. So, you know, one of the most monumental moments in my life is the birth of my kids, and it's a very emotional feeling. On the converse, the inverse of that, I would think that the removal of life would be equally as pungent, but it wouldn't be emotional. It would be a physical sort of pleasure. And that's just the way an actor's head goes around a scene, because I don't know. I don't know what evil is. I don't want to personify evil. Yeah. I want to give you my interpretation of when I let my brain loose, and that's what it thinks about. It thinks about Well, God and creation and life is a very internal and emotional pleasure. The inverse, the removal of it for the dark side, must be a very physical expression of almost erotic glee. And so that's what I put on camera for that very purpose. And I hope it works.
Oh, well, it certainly worked. I mean, erotic glee would be, you know, because the closing line on that scene, that particular moment is, you know, and all hell rejoices at the destruction of this baby. And, you know, you make the comments, it's so good for us to be able to get back at the carpenter. Imagine the pain he feels when one of his little babies is like slaughtered and chopped up inside the mother's womb. And it's so, it's so crazy. Let me ask you, are you, tell us about you, not Nefarious. Tell us about Sean and your faith life. Where are you? How do you look out and see the world now with all of the madness that we've touched on a little bit earlier? You know, tell us about Sean.
Well, I was born in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Grew up in Texas. I've been in Texas since I was 3. Lived out when I finished college, went out to LA with a script under my hand that I wrote. Wanted to become a writer. The acting kind of took over and the writing took a backseat until about 5 years ago recently. But when I went to St. Mark's Episcopal for elementary. I went to University of St. Thomas for university. So I've hardly had a meal without saying grace before it. I've hardly laid my head on a pillow without talking to God. Religion has been a part of my life since I got here. I don't know any different. And although that seems to be a little bit foreign in Los Angeles, when I met my wife, she was cut from the same cloth. She's from South Carolina. And we always realized, you know, one of the things that made me fall in love with her when we're talking about, she, you know, what do you want to do? What do you do? What do you want? And she said, I want to be a mom. As soon as I find the right man, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I thought, oh my God, for somebody to say that vocally in California blew my mind. Yeah. And so we wanted to have kids. We packed up our car and we bugged out and we went to Texas because just the environment. You know, it's one thing to be out there on your own, and I have a protection layer for my own self, but I'm not susceptible to being corrupted by anything else. I know the environment that I'm in when I'm LA, and I know the people, and I can laugh and I can okay. But for kids, rearing kids, I wanted them to be around like-minded individuals. I wanted them to have a sense of community. I wanted them to know their mama and granddaddy more than just on holidays. So we bought a house about 50 yards from my dad's house, and it was one of the best decisions we've ever made.
Do you, with a name like Sean Patrick Flanery, obviously Church Militant is largely a Catholic audience. That sure sounds like an Irish Catholic name. Are you any connections there at all?
Yeah, my granddaddy was first generation from Ireland, so I'm pretty Irish, about as Irish as you can get. But I was born here. I'm an American. I love this place. I adore this country. I adore this state, and everything about it.
Was your grandfather Catholic or Northern Ireland Protestant? What happened with the faith life?
My granddaddy was Catholic. Yep. And we've always been a religious family. So was my dad. When we didn't have a lot of money growing up. Having said that, I come from the Bill Gates of families, at least family wealth, of my dad always being there, my mom always being there. There was always a present under the tree, always had food, but we didn't really have a lot of money. So having the opportunity to go to any private school, we went to St. Mark's Episcopal because that was the one that was close and we had access to. Then later on, I went to a Catholic university. It's I've never not had a relationship with God.
What did you study at St. Thomas in Houston?
I studied business with a focus on law and philosophy. I use the philosophy all the time. And I use the business. I started my first company, a mobile car detailing company, when I was in first year in college. So I threw papers when I was 8 years old. So I used the business, but never really directly in my work. And I moved out to LA and became an actor. I mean, who does that? But turns out I did.
Well, lots of people try, but only people who are really, really good actually sort of rise to the top, at least, I guess, in that profession. I have to say that, you know, one of the things that sort of captured me very early on, the first time I saw Nefarious was the movie, was the you know, and this is obviously hats off to the writers, to, you know, Chuck and Carrie. It is steeped in St. Thomas Aquinas. I mean, practically every word out of the demon's mouth is some acknowledgement, directly or indirectly, of everything that St. Thomas wrote, you know, 800 years ago. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to get much more Catholic than that entire dialogue.
Well, that's my university's namesake. It was St. Thomas Aquinas. And, you know, we studied theology and philosophy just about every semester. So it's something that's not brand new to me. It's something that you know, I've studied in depth. So it's right up my alley. It didn't require a lot of research. Everything that I heard, it wasn't the first time that I heard it before. Maybe that's why the script plugged into me so readily.
Yeah, it's certainly connected on a very human level with it or something. Any thoughts, by the way, about Catholicism specifically?
No. You know, it's, as everybody goes through their cycle of belief and disenfranchisement, and it started with, you know, the Crusades, the sale of indulgences, and your brain starts to go, whoa, 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 and then it comes back around and goes, oh, okay, 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 and then there's always something that happens that makes you go, whoa, 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 and then okay, okay, and you know, certainly now it's no different than a political party. You know, just because you support something doesn't mean that you support every single thing that you say. I mean, there's been things that I hear the Pope says that I'm like, I don't really agree with that. You know, it doesn't mean that you detach completely, but yes, I mean, it's an ongoing process of, you know, love and wait a minute, hang on, question, back to love, and, you know, but that's such as any relationship. One thing that is true and pure and 100% constant is my relationship with God.
We can, I'll be down in Houston soon. Maybe we can get together and have a little chat about about some things, because that's, you know, God bless you, man. You know, we talk about natural virtue, you know, and men of goodwill, you know, in seeking of the truth and everything, and you check those boxes, brother. Great job. I do want to ask you, what response have you gotten from family and friends, people who know you closely, who have seen the movie and watched your performance in that? Sitting across, you know, having breakfast in the morning with your wife, she's like, oh yeah, they're the demons across the way here. Do you have any kind of goofy stories about that sort of thing, just interpersonal relationships after this? Because again, it is a out of the park performance. It really is.
I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You know, everybody that reaches out has been very kind. You know, since they're friends of mine, I do have some friends that if it was garbage, they would tell me. But I mean, it's nothing but flattering compliments, and like I said, from people that aren't even believers. Yeah. You know, that it spoke to them in a way, and you know, like you said, if it makes them contemplate the wholeness and the goodness of their life, man, I'll take it.
Yeah, well, I don't see how anybody watching this with even the remotest kind of open mind could not be stirred and moved by it. You know, a few various friends I've talked to used words like stunning, unbelievable, riveting. I mean, those are the words that come across. So one last question. Do you think that there is going to be a opportunity for, you know, look, Hollywood doesn't like these kind of movies. They don't like these kind of movies that put the truth in, you know, of evil in people's faces and call it out and, you know, make it real to people, because that's what happens. People walk out of this movie and they have a sense of the reality of evil, which of course means Hollywood ain't thrilled with it. So, you know, Carrie and Chuck were telling us that you guys have run into some headwinds, you know, trying to get it out there. Is there, you got a workaround for that, or, you know, how do you address that? Because, again, out of the park performance that everybody in the country should see.
Yeah, you know, there's definitely styles of movies that they embrace and things that they don't. and this would definitely fall into the latter category. I don't have a workaround for that. All I know is that I have to stay true to myself and let the chips fall where they may. I've managed, you know, living here in Texas, you know, my granddaddy first taught me when I was a kid, you can be wealthy one of two ways. You can increase what you have or reduce what you need. Well, I've managed to reduce what I need to where I can afford to do things that may limit my other opportunities in Hollywood. But I'm never going to be a sellout. I'm never going to deny my personal beliefs, my faith, my desire to be a family man. I'll never deny that to anybody. And you know, if that makes people turn away, it makes people turn away. But it's who I am at my core. Yeah,
you seem as honest and genuine and man of goodwill in person as you seem just the opposite of all of that in your character of Nefarious. So that's a good compliment. It's meant to be that way.
I appreciate it.
Sean, thank you very much for joining us, giving this interview. It's again, tremendous movie. You know, hopefully people can get out and see it and keep it going. You know, well worth it. And hopefully we can hook up in Houston this coming weekend, brother.
Likewise, brother. I appreciate you watching. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.